Today, we're going to learn this. Squealing harmonics. When you hear someone play some pretty normal sounding passage on a guitar, and then it sounds like they hit a note that's like a banshee screaming straight out of hell from nowhere, then you've probably heard a pinch harmonic. So like that. Those little squeals and that. You hear it a lot of blatant ones, like this type of thing. You hear some like ZZ Top where he's going this type of thing. You hear them in higher notes. All over the place like that. Not so much I hear. They're doable, but they do get hard to do as they go up the neck. These are very cool, desirable things to put in your playing, and they just sound fantastic. The problem is, I'll be honest, when you're learning guitar, these are one of the hardest things to get. I remember I would sit around for ages, and I was doing this, and then I get a lot of, then every so often one would come out, and then eventually more come out and more come out. And it's important, you know what, even the top players miss them. You've got to have it just right with your right hand. And often, you know, it's the difference between a solo sounding like this or sounding like this. Going, dead, like that. So you really want them to come out. I'm going to show you how to do them, the principle behind how they work. And, see if we can get you screaming out some bad harmonics. This video was requested by my longtime friend, Big Maxi. He couldn't resist. He needs to know how this is done on guitar, so this is for you, Big Maxi. Yes, just like in the local pub, I do videos by request as well. So the principle behind these things and how they work is, if you've seen these harmonics, and I'll cover those at some point as well, the natural ones. It's where you just lightly put your finger on the string at exactly the right point, and you get your you get these high-pitched notes. I think the most well-known example is probably like the Van Halen. There's like that. So yeah, you get those like that. Now these other harmonics are not very different to that. What they are is, if you have the same thing happening up high, up here, you can hear you've got all these other harmonics up here, like that. Now the problem is you have to actually hold a note down with your left hand. So you can't be going like this. You got to hold that down. You think, well, okay, how does it work up here? What I'm going to show you is the way, not to actually play them, but to give you the idea of what you're looking for. And what you do with this is, you hold your pick between your second finger and your thumb, leaving your first finger free like that. Pick a note, any note, like this, and just get used to picking with your pick like that with the first finger free. And now, move that first finger down to lightly touch the string that you're picking. Hear that sound? Now, move it left and right a bit. So you get all of those sounds. So you could do it like that. If you happen to already be picking with your second finger, then you're already there. You can just use your first finger like that to get the harmonic out. Most of us, however, use our first finger like this for picking, which creates a dilemma. How do we hold a note with our left hand, pick the note with our right hand, and have a magical third hand come out of nowhere to lightly put your finger on the string to do the harmonic like that? Okay, what the key is, and in a minute I'm going to put some really close-up angles in here so you can see all this better. The key is, when you pick like that, maybe when you pick in general, you probably don't want too much pick. That's about as much pick as you would want sticking out from beneath your thumb, especially if you're playing faster stuff. So what you do is you'll find if you push into the pick a bit, see how the flesh of your thumb comes down to just cover the tip of the pick like that? Now, if you did that with a little bit of a rolling action, what you'll get is a picked note that very quickly gets touched by the skin of your thumb. So picked note that then gets touched. Now, like with everything else, this is a movement that you exaggerate at first, like roll, roll, roll like this, but eventually it becomes a more subtle, tiny little roll like that. So once again, what I'm doing is pushing down a bit on the pick makes the flesh just get to the tip like that. So you can see for yourself, if you then turn and roll like this, you will pick the note and then straight away it'll get touched by the flesh of your thumb. Now this is a hard thing. When I first learnt to do this, 2 out of 100 would come out with the correct note. Then after tons of practicing, 4 out of 100, then 20 out of 100. And eventually you get there where you can get them to come out all the time. With this also, the more gain, the better on your amp. So if you're doing this through a clean sound, you'll hear it, but you'll get more of a subtle thing. If you have more gain, then you can, they just come out much easier. Also, if you have a good pickup in your guitar that is very, very gutsy and very screamy, then you'll get them to come out like that. A lot of those guys you're hearing doing this stuff, I mean, guys like Gary Moore used to do them a lot, and man, there was so much distortion with a Les Paul 59. It's like, yes, the harmonics are going to absolutely scream. And in the intro to this video, if you paid attention to the harmonic I did, you'll notice it very quickly disappeared into no note. That's because I didn't have much distortion on the amp. The more distortion, the more sustain, the note will just sort of sit there and just, stay coming out all the time like that. So there's some tips if you're having trouble getting it to come out. Now, I am going to cross the footage here down to closer so I can demonstrate this closer for you. Okay, I've crossed in closer here now so you can actually see what's going on. With my left hand, I've just got a note fretted. The note that I'm doing the harmonic on is just fretted, so I won't bother keeping that in camera view because there's not much to see there. So, if you have a look here, the first thing I was explaining, if you hold the pick with your second finger and your thumb, like this, and then lightly touch the string, and I mean it's a feather touch. If you hear this, then you're just pushing too hard. It's a feather touch. And you pick while having that feather touch. Move it around a bit. See how you get exactly what you're looking for? Now, it's harder to do when you're going to use the same thumb and finger to do the picking and the harmonic. But what you do is, okay, in general when you're picking, you should have about that much pick sticking out under your thumb. If you've got this much and you're trying to solo, that's going to work out pretty badly for you. You generally want about that much pick, so it's nice and strongly held. If you push inwards on the pick a bit and roll your thumb down slightly, you get to a point where your thumb is parallel with the tip of the pick. See that? So basically, that means you're now in a position where you could pick the note and then lightly touch it straight after. So if your thumb is parallel with the pick and you do a little rolling action like that, what will happen is you pick the note and then straight after you pick it, your thumb will come into contact like that. And you get that. So to not do a harmonic, you simply just don't push in and down, so you've got a normal amount of pick. And then if you want to do one, push the thumb inwards towards the pick, roll it down slightly. Like that. The other thing is you probably won't be flat picking like this. If you're soloing, you tend to pick with a little angle like that. So you're hitting more with like the side of the pick a lot of the time rather than the flat. Makes it a bit easier to do this too when you're like that. So that's the concept. If you remember this is what you're going for. And then you start picking and then just practice picking, then push your thumb inwards, roll it down slightly, and get to that point where you hear that. And then you'll notice if you move it up and down the string, you get different notes. So you can actually choose if you want whether you can actually choose what sort of harmonic you want. But these give a great sound to your playing. They really like that sudden squeal, sounds really cool. So I'm going to cross back now and recap. Okay, these squealing harmonics, which are called pinch harmonics because you actually pinch the string like I was demonstrating to make them come out. Try and not get upset and disillusioned as you practice them. They're hard. I remember when I first started learning this stuff, this is probably the hardest thing to get on a guitar because unlike a scale or a chord, it's a very finicky, finite little movement. And to be able to get it every time like that, it's difficult. You'll find it's one of those things where at first you get it 2 times out of 1,000, then you get it 4, then you get it 40. It just, you'll eventually get to the point where you're able to do it and you have to actually really think and break down the movement to be thinking about how you're doing it anymore. But anyway, that's pinch harmonics. If you have any comments, let me know down below. They always go so nicely with some vibrato. Get that vibrato going to really get that juicy squeal out. So hopefully that was helpful. Big Maxi, I hope you learnt your harmonics and comments. Thank you.